Consider the functions f of x equals x cubed plus 3x squared minus x plus 7, and g of x equals x cubed plus 9x squared plus 23x plus 25. Which one of the following 8 formulas describes the relationship between f of x and g of x? So we know that it is one of the 8, and the question is which one. The best way to proceed on working this problem is the process of elimination, and then at the end we'll use test points. So let's look at this first one. Is g of x equal to twice f of x? Well, if that were true, then g of x would have double the coefficients. In other words, there's a coefficient of 1 here, you'd have a coefficient of 2 there. Coefficient of 3 here, there'd be a coefficient of 6 there. So what we can do is we can quickly eliminate that one. By the same thinking, this second relationship here, if g of x was f of x divided by 2, then if there were a coefficient of 1 here, there'd be a coefficient of a half there, coefficient of 3 here, coefficient of 3/2 there. So that one is not the case, and you can move on to the next one. The next one asks if g of x is equal to f of 2x. Well, picture yourself plugging 2x into this function right here. Everywhere you see an x, you put in a 2x. Now what you'd have is 8x cubed, but you don't have 8x cubed. So this one is eliminated. Same thing on the next one. If you were to take f and plug in x over 2 everywhere you see an x, you would have x cubed divided by 8 as the first term. And notice you don't have x cubed divided by 8 as the first term. So he gets eliminated. Next one. Is g of x just 2 more than f of x? Well, if f of x looks like this, then 2 more than f of x would simply replace this 7 with a 9. That's not what we have here. So this is eliminated. And the next one is g of x equal to f of x minus 2? Well, if you take this function f of x and you subtract 2, you'd get these same coefficients, except you'd have a 5 right there. And you don't have a 5 right there in the same coefficients, so that one is eliminated. And now we're down to 2 of them that remain. G of x is equal to f of x plus 2, and g of x is equal to f of x minus 2. Well, one way of working this is to plug in x plus 2 into f of x and see if when I simplify that expression, it simplifies to this. But that's a lot of work, plugging x plus 2 and cubing x plus 2 and then squaring it and putting it in here. That's a lot of work. Another thing you can try is you can try a test point. So for this particular relationship right here, I might try the test point x equals 0. I pick something easy. And so what I want to do is I want to calculate g of 0. That's what you get here for x equals 0. And I also want to calculate f of x plus 2, which in this case is f of 0 plus 2, or f of 2. Now, if those two are the same, then there's a good chance, not a guarantee, but a good chance this is the right relationship. So first of all, g of 0, I chose 0 because it's easy. When you plug in a g of 0 here, you get just 25. So g of 0 is 25. And the next thing is, what is f of 2? Well, now we've got to plug 2 in here. We've got a little bit of work on our hands. 2 cubed is equal to 8 plus 3 times 2 squared. Well, 2 squared is 4. 3 times 4 is 12, so that's plus 12. Minus 2 plus 7. 8 plus 12 is 20. 20 minus 2 is 18. 18 plus 7 is equal to 25. Now, that looks good because we've got a 25 here and a 25 here, but that does not prove that this is the one relationship because we might have just gotten lucky with our test point. So what the next thing to do is go to our second possibility here, try a test point. If a test point fails here, then we know this is the only one left, assuming that there is only one relationship here that works. So let's try a test point on this second one, and we'll try that same test point here, x equals 0. So in this particular case, we want to calculate g of 0, and over here we want to calculate f of negative 2. So once again, g of 0, just like before, was 25. And now we'd like to calculate f of negative 2. When you plug into f of x, you start out with negative 2 cubed, and negative 2 cubed is negative 8. And then what you get is 3 times negative 2 squared, and that is plus 12. And the next term, when you plug in a negative 2, you get a minus 2, which is plus 2. And finally, at the end here, you get plus 7. So negative 8 plus 12 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 plus 7 is 13. And because 13 is not equal to 25, we can eliminate that. And we're down to just 1, so by the process of elimination, this is the answer. If I wanted to be a little more careful, what I would do is I would go ahead and calculate f of x plus 2. I'd multiply the whole thing out, and I would indeed get this particular g of x. So this is the solution to the problem.